I want to give you some updated information about the Line 3 pipeline protests that we've talked about in the past. Now, we had shown in the past that some of the security force retaliation against those attempting to stop the construction of this pipeline has been incredibly rough, including the weaponization of helicopters to try to pelt people protesting with like gusts of sand and rocks and things like that. Well, it has continued to be rough. Not that long ago, back on the 30th of July, water protectors at Line 3 were subjected to pepper spray and rubber bullets during a series of arrests. And protesters who've been jailed have reported mistreatment from officers, such as lack of proper food, solitary confinement of people protesting a pipeline, and denial of medications. And this is not just a small number. More than 600 people have now been arrested or received citations of one form or another while participating in these protests. And all of it backed up by the company. So Enbridge is actually paying the salaries of the police officers who are brutalizing these protesters as part of a deal with the state. Take a look at this. The pipeline was approved in exchange for a promise that taxpayers would not have to foot the bill for policing the expected protests. Well, that's good. I mean, the state got so much out of that deal. But anyway, Ben, this has been going on for some time, and the tactics are as rough as we've come to expect with virtually any protests. The Black Lives Matter protests, the people trying to run down the coal workers protesting on the East Coast right now. What are your thoughts about this whole thing?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many layers to this. I mean, first and foremost, you can see the lovely city behind me, Minneapolis. There are police officers from Minneapolis. There are police officers from Minneapolis that are going up there to participate in this. So literally from my own city, some of the people who are brutalizing protesters at George Floyd Square are the same people who are brutalizing these Line 3 protesters. And to make matters even worse, in order to build this pipeline, they're literally violating treaties and like plowing through indigenous land. And so there's a serious legal question, and I would argue to say that it is illegal for them to put the pipeline there without the consent of the tribal authorities in northern Minnesota. And that's what they're arguing in court. They're doing this so very much in my view illegally, where they're violating the treaty. They're going on land that's not theirs, paving through it and putting in place this pipeline. And then when a lot of indigenous folks are trying to like defend their land from having a pipeline driven through it, they're brutalized by police officers who are literally being paid by this private company. And it's really, really frustrating because I was just reading in a report, I didn't really go into detail, but Line 3 is already leaking before it's even finished. And that is a problem that they're contending with now. I know, very surprising.
No one could have seen it coming. No one. Yeah, it's absolutely absurd. So you got the violence. I was reading an article about some of the indigenous TikTokers who've been participating in the protest having their accounts taken down. TikTok implying that they've violated some sort of community standards. Many of the streamers saying, I have no idea what I supposedly did and they're not providing me any information. So it seems like this is an attempt to shut out the free flow of information not coming from Enbridge or from effectively the mercenaries, the hired mercenaries who are enforcing this area. I realize we've skipped two reactions. I want to give you some basic information in case this is the first that you're hearing about it. The Line 3 oil sands pipeline is a 1,097-mile crude oil pipeline extending from Edmonton in Alberta to Superior, Wisconsin. In the US, most of the pipeline's route is being built in Minnesota, where construction of Line 3 is replacing an existing 282-mile pipeline with a new 330-mile route. It crosses more than 200 water bodies and 75 miles of wetlands. Construction began in December of last year. Total project is 80% completed, with estimates it will reach final completion toward the end of 2021. And they are desperately trying to stop it with these ongoing protests. Unfortunately, while look, I think you make a great case as to its illegality, they have the backing of the administration, the same Biden administration that got some positive press, including from us, about coming out against other pipelines. It's a shell game, basically. It's like, oh wait, so people are really mad about Keystone XL or one of those. Well, we're not going to do that anymore. But now we're gonna turn over to this one. They just have to get that the oil sands out there.
Yeah, and it's a climate change double whammy too, because those wetlands, right? Like those peat bogs are some of the most efficient natural carbon sinks on the planet, right? Peat bogs are very, very effective carbon sinks. There's tons and tons of carbon that's like stored in there. And if you destroy those parts of the environment, typically that carbon will find its way into the atmosphere one way or another. One of those ways being fires, which are notoriously difficult to put out. Especially when you have oil pipelines leaking nasty chemicals into those bogs. So it's a climate change double whammy, right? You have the oil that's coming through the pipeline, and then you have the resulting climate impacts on what is a very, very effective natural carbon sink. Not to mention the pollution of the water. I mean, my understanding is that it literally crosses the Mississippi River. And that's a big deal, right? A lot of people, I get my water from the Mississippi, it's kind of a big deal.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, I get that you're worried about that. I don't think that anywhere like in the US, a government would allow people's drinking water to be contaminated in a way that's not safe. So I think that you're probably fine in that area. But yeah, and so look, the fact that the Biden administration is backing this, in addition to like they put out a call in the last couple of days for OPEC to increase their production of gas. Oh, I wonder why people aren't convinced that they have our back when it comes to climate change and aren't just going into this reconciliation process assuming that it's gonna come out just great. Yeah, you like out of one corner of their mouth, they're saying that they take it seriously, they're gonna follow the science. Out of the other, let's burn everything that we can burn while there's still time. Those are mixed messages that unfortunately will result in the destruction of our civilization.
For more political news breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/thedamagereport. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.